제대해서 나시게 오범했다는 나머스는 sixth generation descendant of Chief Donai. And the good thing about our people is they were both matrilineal and patrilineal. Kind of throws the anthropologists for a loop. So I heard there's a big powwow going on in Albuquerque, but I think this is the real gathering of nations, huh? My grandfather, Chief Donai, signed a treaty in 1868. It was a very tumultuous time because it just happened after the Washita Massacre, 4 years after the Sand Creek Massacre. The chiefs are listed in your program. The first Fort Laramie Treaty was in 1851, and we had our 4 principal old man chiefs sign that treaty. And the reservation was huge. Through the years, that was reduced in acreage. Numerous conflicts, as we know, had occurred, one of them being the stolen horse incident. And one of our young chiefs at the time, Little Wolf, and the 3 of his buddies were returning horses to the fort that had run off. They tried to arrest them. They shot 2 of them. They jailed 1, but Little Wolf, he was a good runner. He ran away. And he told his chief then, which was the young Chief Donai, he said, we gotta leave camp because they're gonna try to come and kill us. And so he did. We hear words like sovereignty and indigenous and resilience. And I think some of us don't realize that we had a concept of sovereignty that is not defined by the federal government. What is that? It's a sacred relationship. It's the establishment of a sacred relationship. The Cheyennes had established a sacred relationship a long time ago when they met another group of people, the Sutta, and they were going to fight them because they didn't know who they were. They sent 1 leader from each group to negotiate peace. It didn't work. At that point, we knew that having 1 leader at the table wasn't good enough. This took place at Lake Oahe, the northern part of Lake Oahe. They met again, Sutta and Tatistas. This time they sent 4 from each group, 4 chiefs, 4 leaders. They met, they talked, they negotiated. They made a peace agreement on spiritual values and the pipe. From that point forward, that is how we had our leadership created. From that point forward, we had created grown into numerous bands and created the council of 44 chiefs, 10 bands. So when every time something happened, anytime when someone needed to make a decision, we send 4 leaders. 4 minds are greater than 1. This laid the foundation for us to make peace with the Arapaho, to make peace with the Oglala, the Bule, the Ankpapa. So when you go up to the Black Hills area, that's why we're all related. We're all part of this unification. Peacemaking is not an easy thing to accomplish. If you think you're a strong warrior or a strong person by going to war, that's easy. Anybody can fight. But can you be a chief, like a chief, and sit down with your enemy who has killed your people, who has killed your children, your women, who has taken your land? Can you sit down and talk with them? I'm not talking about the drama that we go through nowadays with our Facebook foes, our Facebook enemies. I'm talking about true enemies. And so we have our leaders that came here to talk about peace in our land that we wanted to keep from this expanding nation called the United States. We needed to make a truthful and peaceful and honest, responsible peace agreement, a promise. Some of us in our culture, we learn how to keep promises as children to our parents, to our grandparents, to our friends, to our loved ones, to our significant others, that teaches us how to keep a promise and establish a good relationship with strangers that we meet. That's where we come from as indigenous people. From the other side, maybe they didn't have those same upbringings, those same values. So sometimes, a lot of times, those promises were broken and those relationships became very dysfunctional and very hurtful. And I think those are some things that we are trying to recover from to this day. I know how it feels to be treated like an alien in your own traditional homeland. But you Native people need to realize that this is your homeland. Don't just come out when there's a commemoration or an event. Don't just come out when other Indians are going to be there. Let your presence be known. Enjoy this land. Go fish. Go camp. Go hang out in places that are in your sacred memory. It's going to be very challenging for all of us to come together because we have a bad history. We have pain, unhealed pain, and the continued resentment towards whites and Indians remains when you leave the reservation or when you're treated differently. But it takes two groups of people. We need to realize, which we Indian people have, that the whites aren't going away. And I think about this when my grandfather was signing that treaty, why he had to sign that treaty. It created much resentment because he didn't define a reservation. The 12 chiefs that signed it didn't have a defined reservation. We thought we were going to stay in the Black Hills and the treaty states in the Great Sioux Reservation. If you don't believe me that there's a reservation within a reservation, the Hopi Nation is within the Navajo Nation. And the Navajo Nation is huge. That's what my grandfather signed for. After we killed Custer, the Northern Cheyennes were removed to Oklahoma to live with their southern kinfolk based on this treaty, which we resisted. And as you know, we fought back. We took about 1,000 people, men, women, and children, under two of the same chiefs who signed that treaty, Little Wolf and Dawn Knife. They led us all the way back to the northern homeland. We had to fight for that. Men, women, and children. That is the legacy of this 1868 treaty for the Northern Cheyennes. But we still have not given up our right to claim to the Black Hills, because all the tribes know that from the Cheyenne River to the Bighorn River, that's Cheyenne country. So the whites are going to have to also realize that us Indians, we're not going anywhere either. And I'll close with the words from my grandfather, Dawn Knife. All that we ask is that we be allowed to live, and to live in peace. In the honor. Oh.